Hey, what's going on, Josh? How we doing?
Hey, James, doing pretty good. I don't know what you were looking at, but
Yeah, I'm
doing
just
pretty
kind of
good.
surveying the lay of the land here. As I'm telling you, I'm suspecting an earthquake coming down because the NFL scene has been completely shaken up and it keeps getting shook. I mean, we
Mm,
did this less than 5 days ago, and more stuff keeps happening. It is the off season, baby, and I love every minute of it, and as I know you do. Josh, I have a quick question. Who
yep.
is this man behind me? This is an important lesson for today. I'm going to kind of move
You,
my head.
it looks like you are on Tremaine Johnson Island.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, that's correct, man. Tremaine Johnson. Now, why do you think I put him as my background? Now, shout out to him. He's a great corner. Why do you think I put him on my background?
That's a great thing. I think it's because the Rams made a trade earlier today or yesterday, and they went out and got all-pro corner Trent McDuffie.
Yes, that's part of it. That is actually part of it. I didn't even think about that. No, actually, we're going to get to that in a second. The reason I put this up is the life lesson that every single team needs to know is that free agency, you get players, they sound amazing, but sometimes they whiff bad.
Hmm.
And that is the perfect example of Tremaine Johnson, a man who was a fantastic cornerback for the Rams and goes to hell on earth, the New York Jets for a 4 year, 70 something $1 million contract. And he's out, I think, in like a year and a half.
Yeah,
So it's a
I think
lesson for teams to watch out because free agency right now sounds awesome. But a couple of months down the line, you could be shaking your head saying, what have we done? But
and I think especially, let me throw this in there. I think that happens a lot with corners, especially. We
yeah,
see corners always getting huge money, and they're good corners. But a lot of times, scheme comes in so importantly with
yeah,
corners, but like, Tremaine Johnson's up there. Janoris Jenkins had a pretty good, career post Rams. But Namdi Asamoah is a huge example of that,
yeah.
of these fantastic corners go to different schemes and aren't able to produce at that high of a level.
Probably the most recent one is J.C. Jackson or fellow
Yeah.
corner L'Jarius Sneed for the Titans was a
Yeah.
big one. And I guess that's kind of a curve into the probably one of the biggest pieces of news. I'd say the first blockbuster trade of the season.
Mhm.
And like you said, Trent McDuffie to the Rams in exchange for a first, a fifth, a seventh, and then a third next year. Now, I'm gonna let you kind of talk about it, see your thoughts. I have a couple of thoughts
Mhm.
on my own, but what do you think about this trade for both teams?
Yeah, I'll start on the Rams side. That's what this Rams team needs. They are in a perfect situation where they don't exactly have to pay for some of their big contracts. Puka, especially that entire defensive line is going to need contracts in the next upcoming years. So they're in a perfect win now mode with an older MVP quarterback. This is that stepping stone they need to really be front runners. On the Chiefs side, this is nothing new. Obviously, we talked about L'Jarius Sneed, but you go even further back and Marcus Peters. The Chiefs have this record of drafting really talented corners, developing them, making them all pros within their first 3 to 4 years, and then instead of paying that second contract, setting them off. And we see it right here. They've got multiple first round picks to get. Marcus Peters went to the Rams, L'Jarius Sneed to the Titans, Trent McDuffie to, the Rams. Again, these are all players that made all pro teams, not just pro bowlers. So you did get a lot in return. It's the Rams' later first round pick. It is a very deep corner class. So I'm fully expecting the Chiefs to have fallen in love with a corner in the first round, going to take it and develop for 3 or 4 years and do the same thing. When they have so many big contracts, Mahomes, Chris Jones, so much more on that team, they can't pay these big time corners big time money. So I'm not surprised, but for the Rams, this is your chance.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, the trade rumors of McDuffie have been swirling around, and I mean, the Rams, their biggest knock was corner issues. They tried to address it by getting, I think it was McCreary in
Hmm.
the trade deadline. Didn't necessarily work out for them very well. I mean, not a knack, but when it's Emmanuel Forbes and Akel Witherspoon as your top corners,
And
it's not
Darius
gonna
Williams.
and Darius Williams, it's not gonna be the best. I love McDuffie. I think he's a very
Hmm.
underrated corner. One of my prized possessions is a signed Trent McDuffie card that I was able to snag. I think it's a lot for a corner. I mean, you just saw the Sauce Gardner trade, and it could come back to bite. Trading corners, I would say, is almost is just as close to gambling as any other trade. It is very, very risky. It sometimes pays off, but a lot of the recent corner trades you see, Snead's a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't play. And you were talking about too, scheme and everything. They just don't play as well comparatively. I mean, I think for the Chiefs, it's interesting because they are in this win now window with Mahomes, and you trade your best secondary player. But you are right; they develop a crazy amount of corners. I'm not sure. I don't know if this seems a little more likely that they'll try to retain maybe Jalen Watson on a contract. But again, like you said, they don't really like to do that. I know they have some cap issues that they really have to clear up. So I'm not really sure what direction the Chiefs are going. Yeah, like you said, I imagine they're going to get, they're eyeing a corner in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly there's a good bunch of guys that are late first round gems. I think it's risky for the Rams, but it's what you needed to do. And I think the interesting thing I saw was with the Rams, since Jared Goff in the first round, they have selected only one player in the first round, and that was Jared Verse.
Jared Verse.
Since Jared Goff, they have the Jared Goff draft was the last time this like Jared Goff, then Jared Verse. But then I think the other thing too with the Rams is, and this is what's good about it with the Falcons is, they still have their top first overall pick. They still have a top 15 first round pick to go along with Trey McDuffie. So they had that space. But you know what Les Snead or the GM for the Rams likes to say, F them picks. So I guess I'd lean a little more towards the Rams on a win here. But I just have a feeling it's going to want to be one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, that's why the Chiefs did it. They bring in a guy, and he's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me. I have no idea what direction this Chiefs team's going to go into next year. Mahomes has a chance of missing the entire season, at least over half. Are they able to stay afloat in a very competitive division? Or even with, a top 10 pick this year, do they see themselves as another rebuilding year? I mean, they have so many older players, Chris Jones, if Travis Kelce's coming back, even Nick Bolton on that back end, like they have a lot of older players that I don't know if they could necessarily waste another year of waiting for recovery from Mahomes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's very interesting. And I think, I don't think there's a clear answer, at least from an outside perspective of what they want to do. So I think it just makes this trade even more intriguing. And, maybe they take these first round picks and, reload quickly, make some trades potentially for a quarterback early on and stay afloat in then second half. So kind of have to wait and see about that.
We will see.
Yeah.
But the Rams getting another star on the defensive side of the ball. But I mean, I definitely think there's going to be more incoming. The Max Crosby rumors are heating up again. Jonathan Grenard was open to trade. I think they want like a second and a third or something like that for him.
Might as well talk about the DJ Moore trade real fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I know you're gonna talk about that later when you're covering. Spoiler alert: it's NFC South, NFC North with the Bears. But yeah, I mean, DJ Moore in a fifth for a second rounder. I guess kind of. What do you think?
I'll say this from the Bears side. I like this. I think we have seen over the past 3 years with DJ Moore being in Chicago, there's been a steady decline in production. If it's, not meshing with the quarterback, if there's some plays where he's taken off, it just hasn't quite been the fit that they expected. Also, with the emergence of Rome Odunze and especially Luther Burden and Colston Loveland at the end of the season, DJ Moore with that cap hit was slowly becoming, the second, third, maybe even fourth option in that offense. Shipping him to the Bills with some value. I think the Bills arguably kind of overpaid for this, but it's a position that they needed for sure. And I think that especially Brandon being there in the GM, I think there was so much pressure on him right now to do something that he was more forced into this trade rather than being able to get as much value out of it.
I agree with that. Yeah, because my AJ Brown pick from last week basically just threw right out of the window. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, "You have to be kidding me!"
Yeah, the structure was still there.
the structure was there. You know, it was a big payday.
Just
You get a
pivot to the
receiver.
Patriots, and we'll be
Yeah,
good.
all right. Yeah, we're moving on. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think it was an overpay. I was expecting more to get a third rounder. I think a lot of people were saying like he could get he would probably go for a third rounder. It is a lot. And he's taking on. I think for the Bears, the other thing is too, is it's a lot of cap. The Bills are taking on a lot of cap with a 28-year-old wide receiver. I guess here's the other spectrum of it is, yeah, I mean, DJ Moore is still a good receiver. Like he immediately in Buffalo becomes the number one option. I think I heard this. The Bills adding DJ Moore have now the second highest paid wide receiver room besides the Cincinnati Bengals. I think
That's
it was like
insane.
Josh Palmer and Curtis Samuel are making like 20 mil, like something combined.
Curtis Samuel was making like 10, and then Joshua Palmer's making like 8 or 9. Like
So it's definitely a plus for the Bills. You get a good body in that room. The other thing is too, DJ Moore's best years in Carolina were under Joe Brady. So it's a reunification there. Hopefully they can get him back on track. It's a shot. It's a shot. That's what it is. And you're right. They fired their head coach. They're throwing up shots right now. And I guess from the Bears perspective, yeah, this is great trade value. I was, again, not expecting a second, give up a fifth, but who cares? You get a second round pick at the back end of the draft. But another interesting thing to look at is Chicago's receiver room right now is Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, and technically Jade Walker. And that is it. They do not have anyone else in that receiver room. So, I know there's a lot of need for the Bears, but another one that comes up now is you need wide receiver depth. Because you're trusting Luther Burden to be your receiver run. You got Rome, but you need other bodies in that room in order to compete. And I guess another.
But I'll say this real fast. All three of those players are on rookie contracts. They have money to go out with one of these top free agents and still bring in a rookie, day 2, day 3. Which,
and especially now that, and this is the other, probably the biggest news for Bears fans is that Drew Dahlman retiring.
Yeah.
27, coming off an All-Pro, I think it was All-Pro year.
It was All-Pro.
Out of nowhere. I mean, this is the most Bears thing I've ever heard. And first of all, I know people are pissed with Dahlman, but I understand his reasoning. He's a person, he carved out a great career. Like, I tip my hat off to him because this was bold. This is a bold thing to do. I respect the hell out of it. But I guess from a Bears perspective, now it's like you're like, oh, you're going to get an edge rusher. Now it's like, oh, crap, we need a center because Dahlman was the anchor to that offensive line. And, Joe Thuney's not getting any younger. Ozzie Trapilo, Jonah Jackson's not the best. He's serviceable. And then Ozzie Trapilo, they don't have a left tackle.
No, he's hurt right now.
Yeah, he will be hurt the entire next season, I think. So I think this offseason definitely was, at first felt very comfortable for Chicago, but now it's like, okay, we're going to need to kind of pull what we did last year and start bringing in a bunch of guys to kind of restructure this roster. So I'm going off a little bit, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know injuries is always is a huge deal, and I believe there were concussions in the past, and his play declined a little bit in the season because of some injuries. So as part of football, that isn't talked about enough, and we see it every day with these players. And like you said, first and foremost, he's a person. His health is number one priorities. Just got to pivot and change a few things around. Maybe edit your draft board a little bit, or your free agency tracker, but got to keep it going.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah, but that kind of concludes the trade segment so far. But now I guess obviously there's going to be a lot more coming. But now let's get into the last installment of mock offseason. And we have our two favorite and least favorite divisions in football, the AFC South and the NFC North. I'm going to have you kick it off to start, as always. Who do you want to go first?
I am going to go with the NFC North first. So that lets you have plenty of time with, your team. Because we've been talking about them, I'm going to start with the Bears.
Okay.
So we talked about Drew Dahlman, of course, DJ Moore. So Bears, with those contracts kind of off the board, set about $44 million, which is fantastic. I do only have one restructure. Dio Oyingbo, he's been not a fantastic edge rusher with how much they've been able, how big of a
He was
contract
hurt
they
for a
gave
while,
him.
but he wasn't great. Yeah.
Right. So restructure him, bring his cap, a little bit lower. Also, obviously, they made a cut earlier of Tremaine Edmonds, and that was my only cut, but that happened earlier. And then I am going out and I'm extending a few players. Darnell Wright, they're fantastic right tackle. 3 years, $58 million. If they are able to get him a contract now under that cap, like under that right there, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, that's an unbelievable steal.
If they do want to wait, they just have to expect that number to increase. 3 or 58 million. And then also a little bit of an interesting one. I think this one is a little more potential. Eric Stevenson, about 4 year, 80 million. It is a lot.
It is
It
a
is a
lot
lot.
of money.
A lot of
Wow.
money. When Tyreek, he's kind of dealt with some injuries a little bit. There's been a lot of shuffle with the depth chart. When he is able to play, he's very physical. He was oozing with talent coming out of Miami. I think being in that cornerback room, very talented, Kyle Gordon, Jalen Johnson, I think they can take him under the wing continuously and he can outperform that contract. So with all that, I'm sitting with 42-ish. Oh, well, actually, a little more than that. About 60-ish million. And then I'm resigning 3 key Kevin Byard, 2 year, 15.6 million. He led the league in interceptions this past year. Yes, he is, past that 30 mark, but his play is just consistently getting better. Jaquan Brisker, 3 year, 30 million. If he can stay healthy, he is fantastic. Kevin Byard
Yeah.
and Jaquan Brisker is a fantastic safety combo. And I am resigning Scott Daly, their long snapper, for just the base minimum.
Okay, there you go.
Show a little love there. So sitting with about $47 million. I am also going and I'm signing 3 players out of free agency. Wide receiver, Rashid Shaheed, 3 year, $42 million. This is not an exact replica of DJ Moore, but this is a part of the offense that the Bears don't have. This is a pure deep threat. He's also going to provide a lot of value. Special teams, kickoff, punt return. We saw that, in the playoffs. I'm also getting Quincy Williams, linebacker, 1 year, $9 million. You lose out on Tremaine Edmonds. They don't really have much behind TJ Edwards down there. I think a 1 year deal, you're able to potentially find a replacement next year. And then left tackle Cornelius Lucas, 1 year, $3 million. It's not the biggest name. He's a serviceable veteran left tackle. If Ozzy Tripola is able to come back near the end of the season, Cornelius is able just to be serviceable left tackle. He's also had, he's 35, I believe, right now. He's had years of experience. He can hold down the left side for this year. That leaves me about $34 million. And then I have their first 4 picks because they were able to get pick 60 from the Bills this past because of the DJ Moore trade. Pick 25, I'm going with D tackle Lee Hunter from Texas Tech.
Oh, there you go.
It is a little high for Lee Hunter. He's probably one of the best straight up nose tackles. He is a little bit older. Grady Jarrett was not great last year. Glover Dexter is still young, big, but not great against the run. Lee Hunter, that is where that value is. He's fantastic at the point of attack. Pick 57, I'm going back in the D-line. LT Overton, edge from Alabama.
Yeah.
Add a little depth in that D-line. He is a big, physical, stout run defender and with a high potential pass rush. Yes, I'm a Jags fan, but he does remind me a lot of Trayvon Walker with that point of attack, especially. Former 5-star, has a lot of potential. Pick 60 from the Bills. This is where I'm going with Connor Lew, center from Auburn. This is your Drew Dahlman, replacement. He is incredibly smart, super fast, and that's probably one of the biggest things you want. 2 biggest things you want from a center is your speed and how fast you're able to diagnose the plays.
Yeah.
2 things. He's a former walk-on, incredible player. And then pick 146. This is in the 4th round. Wide receiver, Jacoby Lane, USC. This is your fantastic combine. If he's there at 146, you're running up. You're running up there and hanging your card.
That's like an Amon-Ra thing, man. USC receivers in the 4th round.
Yep, he's 6'4". This is your big body, smooth athlete receiver. That's one thing they don't really have on the roster. Luther Burden is, about 6'1", 6'2". Roma Dunze is a little bit bigger, about 6'3", but Jacoby Lane is almost there at 6'5". Incredible hands. This is your big time, jump ball receiver. So yeah, this is my Bears offseason.
Let me just say this. I would absolutely hate to have to play Rashid Shaheed twice a year. That guy
Yeah.
scares the living daylights out of me, even though I love him. Yeah, I think you hit kind of everything. I think defensive line is obviously the thing that Chicago's most frustrated in. Gravon
Hmm.
Dexter has been okay. You know, they're just looking for they're looking for guys to rush the quarterback and be physical at the line of scrimmage. That's what their offensive identity was, and I think that's what they need their defensive identity to be. And you know, I love the Connor Lew. I think now that I'm looking at this, I think a big theme for these divisions
Hmm.
is center. A
Yeah.
lot of these teams need a offensive center, including, you know, my personal team. And I think there are a lot of teams that, you know, the center market, and that's a big theme, I think, this season is the center market. And Linderbaum is going to set that.
Yeah.
But I
There's reports right now that he's, wanting north of 25 million a year.
which is absurd for a center.
Creed
I mean,
Humphrey isn't
they're
even getting 20 million. He's the highest paid right now.
and it is very, very significant. I mean, centers are you again. You see what guys like Dahlman and what they do. It is very important. But I think that Bears, that's a great offseason, kind of checking everything off and just completely revamping that receiver room. That would be very fun for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think you have to realize with, Drew Dahlman retiring, Adi Tripolo's injury, this offensive line, it's going to, I don't want to say struggle, but may not be as good as last year's. I don't think
Yeah.
you can potentially get that talent without making massive trades. So you had to kind of fill in those guys, but it's the receiver room that can really take off this
Mhm.
offseason and next year.
Yeah.
Not just Luther Burden and Roma Dunze, progressing, but you have money to bring in guys. You have draft capital to also bring in guys. And, you still are running that 12 personnel with Colston Loveland and, Cole Kmet if he stays on the team. Like, there's a lot of potential for a lot of good hands for Caleb
Mhm.
Williams this year.
Force. Yeah. You did a great job with it. Now,
Well, thank you.
oh, you're welcome. We're going to go to a different NFC North team, and that is the
Hmm.
Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings, this is a really tough offseason, but I have my idea of where I'm going to place this team and how I'm going to direct their offseason. This is a team that basically tried to go all in last year, completely failed, and now they had to dump a lot of cap and contracts, cut both their defensive tackle signings and Aaron Jones. They're still down 28 million in cap, but my opinion is this team is too old to not try and compete right away. I know it's very I think the issue with Minnesota is this, and this is why this franchise is at a crossroads, is that they have such a young, unproven quarterback who struggled, yet
Hmm.
their roster is really well designed and really old with a lot of expiring contracts. My hypothetical with this is, listen, like, if that doesn't work this year, especially with JJ McCarthy, right? You gave it a year. It's his first year playing a whole season. It doesn't work next year. You blow everything up on the roster. So
Yeah.
I'm giving it one more chance this year because you got a lot of guys on expiring deals you're probably not going to be able to bring back if you don't go far. With that being said, there are a ton of restructurings you can do for this team. I don't think they're going to do them all, but I'm going to read
Hmm.
them out, the options. You can restructure Justin Jefferson for 20 million. Brian O'Neill and Christian Dare saw 13 million each. Hawkinson 11 million. Jonathan Grenard 14 million. Andrew Van Ginkel 12 million. Will Fries 9 million. Byron Murphy Jr. 11 million. That's a lot of cap space to clear. I think another cut that they're going to make, I think they're going to cut Ryan Kelly, the center. I just don't, way too many concussions for that guy. Never got really to stay healthy. We're going to re-sign two people. We're going to re-sign Eric Wilson. He was extremely productive in Minnesota last year, 1 year, $5 million deal. And we're also going to tender kind of his rotational guy, Ivan Pace. Now, if they do all that restructuring, which I don't think they'll do, they get
Hmm.
$84 million in cap space. They go
That's
from negative 28 to 84 million. I'm going to estimate that they do some of these. So I'm going to put the blank at around 40 to 50 million because they
okay.
do need to kind of restructure some of these contracts in order to get over the cap. Although you mentioned the Grenard trade, I do not think that's a good idea for the position they're in, but they can do whatever they want. Now, with that being said, I have three signings that aren't going to break the bank. My first one, I'm gonna sign Giants backup center Austin Schlottman to a 1-year, $3 million deal. Low risk, high reward center. Possibly draft one in the back half of the draft, but right now he's kind of your maintaining starter. Another one I have is Marshawn Lattimore, 1 year,
Okay.
$8 million. I think, he's just kind of a rotational corner, not necessarily your prime starter, but with Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers, kind of they desperately need corners and corner depth and helping that secondary out. And then my final signing is Kirko Chains reuniting. I am signing Kirk Cousins as competition in this quarterback room. We're going to sign him on maybe like a 1 year, $8 million deal, something relatively cheap. Again, competition for JJ McCarthy, and Kirk is one of the better backups that you are able to offer. Why not bring him back to Minnesota? So that is my offseason for them. Not much, but it's enough. With the draft, my first round pick, I'm assuming Harrison Smith is probably going to retire.
Yeah.
And I'm literally going with his exact clone, Dylan Thieneman, in the first round. This guy was kind of a second round pick. Absolutely blew it up at the combine. Just a fantastic safety. I mean, putting him in a Brian Flores defense, I think this is a home run pick for them with their draft pick. My next pick, second round, I'm going with another defensive back, Chris Johnson Jr. from San Diego State. Again, this secondary is relatively old. Isaiah Rodgers doesn't have much on his contract. You bring in Marshawn Lattimore's veteran help. Johnson can kind of rotate in, also play in that corner rotation. And then my third round pick, I'm going with Nebraska running back Emmett Johnson to replace Aaron Jones. I think he would be a fantastic 1-2 punch with Jordan Mason, add another weapon to that offense. Overall, though, I just think Minnesota's in a very hard position. I think give it one more push. If it doesn't work this year, you take the sticks of dynamite and you blow the hole wide open.
Yeah, they're in such a difficult spot, and with being such a competitive division as well, they are just kind of stuck in the middle. I love that like Kirk Cousins signing.
Yeah.
It could be very similar to that Russell Wilson signing of the Steelers a few years ago, where he's still getting paid so much by the Broncos, and then he's getting a bare minimum by the Steelers.
Yeah.
So I can see a contract close to that. But I mean, what do you expect from JJ McCarthy? Like this whole previous season, it was so up and down. Injuries, of course, did not help. If it's not there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they target one of those developmental quarterbacks, end of the season or end of the draft. Like a Drew Aller, 5th round pick, something like that. So there's a lot of question marks. I think for what it was, I mean, they have so much potential too. So many chances with restructures. They could really do so much. No, I like it. There's so many question marks. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot going on there, and I think it could, again, with the Jonathan Grenard trade rumors, there's a lot circulating with this team, but that's the way I have it moving. So, who do you got next, Josh?
So I got the Detroit Lions. This one's interesting. I am mostly focused on their more internal players. I have a lot of extensions, few maybe really big signings, and then really just filling out the rest of the core through the draft. So the Lions, as of right now, sit at about -$5 million. Jared Goff's cap this year is about $70 million.
Oh my God, that's insane.
So
wow.
You can get it down to about 33. And I'm also going to restructure Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then I'm going to have no cuts. No cuts.
Okay.
He's signing Alex Anzalone, about 2-year, 14.5. He's that enforcer on that team. Jack Campbell had an amazing season, but you can point towards Alex Anzalone as the reason why. Extensions. Sam Laporta, 3-year, $51 million. Brian Branch, 4-year, $80 million. Jahmyr Gibbs, about 4-year, $50 million. Jack Campbell, 4-year, $85 million.
Woof.
It's a lot.
Here comes the money, baby. Wow.
I mean, Sam Laporta is a Pro Bowler. Brian Branch should be All-Pro. Jahmyr Gibbs, All-Pro. Jack Campbell, All-Pro. You have to keep these players around. So with all that, you have about 50-ish million left. Signings. Trey Hendrickson, 2-year, $51 million. Al Muhammad played really well last year. He is 31. He's the same age as Trey Hendrickson. I would rather take Trey Hendrickson over him. I'm also going with Russell Douglas, 1 year, $4 million, kind of help that
Oh,
secondary a little bit. Another
my fan favorite. I'd hate to
another
see that.
veteran back in the back end, and a little sneaky. I'm going with Najee Harris, 1 year, $3 million. Obviously, we talked about David Montgomery being traded last episode, but Najee's does not have probably won't have a lot of offers. So you bring him just to be that big power back that Dan Campbell loves. But yeah, I mean, really just got to re-sign your own players,
Yeah.
and obviously bring in some veterans as well as finally give Aiden Hutchinson a superstar partner in Trey Hendrickson. Now I have the draft. They have pick 17, 50. They don't have a third round pick. The Jags actually own that one. So I'm going to do their fourth round pick 118. So pick 17, I'm going with offensive guard Olaiva Venga Ioane.
Mhm.
I think I have like a little pronunciation underneath of how to say his name. Guard Penn State. Now in this scenario, I do have Drew Struggs being a starting center. I don't think they would have traded for him unless they had high expectations.
Yeah.
They could have gone more draft capital. There's a lot of other players that they could have gone for. I don't think they would have targeted him without him expecting to start.
Yeah.
But so he would take Graham Glasnow's spot, and Christian Mahogany should not be a starter for
Damn.
the Lions. I'm not saying they've been bad for him. I think there's a lot of potential to upgrade. So that's where Olaiva Venga comes in. Pick 50, I have D'Angelo Pons, corner from Indiana. I think, yes, he's undersized, but so is their number one corner in DJ Reed. I think that's a perfect corner to sit behind and even rotate in and learn. Then pick 118, I do have Jalen Kilgore, safety, South Carolina. Obviously, there's a lot of times where Brian Branch comes in, plays more in the box, but also an underwhelming story that hasn't been talked about is Kirby Joseph. He suffered a very bad neck injury last season, and there's questions if he will ever even play again.
Is it neck or knee? It's something
It
like
might have been knee.
it's something. It's like I think it's like a degenerative knee injury. I'm not sure though, but
Yeah,
it's something
I know
bad. It's
there were,
really bad. Yeah.
and to say Brian Branch also had a big time injury last year.
Mm.
So bringing in Jalen Kilgore, he is someone for South Carolina that played every position in that secondary. Played corner, both safety spots, played linebacker, played slot. Comes in and it's just a versatile piece for that secondary.
Yeah, I've seen the Ioane pick a lot, and I love it. I think when you get a rock solid guard like that, it's an immediate starter. Rasul Douglas is a very sneaky one. I think he is still a really good corner and has the potential to be a starter. Hendrickson would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Him and Aiden Hutchinson, I know they have been just trying to find that second guy. That is a scary, scary pass rush duo from them. And I think you're right, is secondary for them is the most interesting thing because they've invested a lot in it.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch are probably, I would say, the best safety duo in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But, Brian Branch probably will not play a lot next season. And Kirby Joseph, yeah, again, it's almost like the Matabike thing. You don't know what he's going to do. And then at the same time, you have Terrion Arnold, who hasn't necessarily been the best and has had criminal law issues with the law. And then you have their second round pick, Ennis Rakasa, who literally just has not been on the field.
Less than 30 snaps last year, or less than
Yeah.
60 snaps last year. And then DJ Reed, who is at 30.
So that is a very interesting thing to monitor too. But this would be, and then the other thing I really like is the Najee Harris signing because I think they need they're going to want a big physical back to go alongside Jahmyr Gibbs because as much as Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a heavy workload, again, this 2-back league, they're going to want a new Sonic and Knuckles, even though it'll never be the same.
No, not. And Jahmyr Gibbs has never been an elite Cal, running back in his career.
Yeah.
Not in Alabama and not at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Not saying that he can't do it. I just wouldn't push the limits, especially when, in this case, I have them re-signing him for long term. Use him all right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it, man. Love it, love it, love it. That was actually, I do like the mock too, the draft. So now is my favorite team, the all-time great Green Bay Packers. Let me pull them. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I got them. Okay, Green Bay Packers. Wow, this is a really interesting offseason. They got a lot of stuff to do. I'm circulating a lot of rumors. There's been a lot of rumors in the Packer community on things. So let's get this started. They are at, I think it's around 2 million in cap right now with some of their restructurings, but we're going to change that a little bit. There's a couple of big cuts we need to make. First is Elton Jenkins. He's going to go. That's going to save us $20 million in cap. Same thing with Rashawn Gary. I know they're going to consider finding a trade partner. Cutting him leaves $11 million. And then finally, Carl Brooks as well. He'll leave probably like 2 to 3 million on the table. Restructuring. There's two of them. We're going to restructure Aaron Banks' contract. He was a more recent signing, so I would not be surprised to do this. You save about 12 million. And also Josh Jacobs. You save about 7 million by keeping him.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of extensions, just like the Lions. I think this offseason for Green Bay is going to be defined by they are letting a lot of people walk. Sheed Walker, Quay Walker, Engabare. I can't even list them all. Romeo Dobbs, Malik Willis. So they are going to have to kind of, like just bring some of their core guys. I got 3. We're going to first extend Devontae Wyatt. It's about a 3-year, $36 million contract. Save about $3 million off of that. Next is Christian Watson to a 3-year, $46 million contract. And the final one and the biggest one of them all is my boy Tucker Kraft, 4 years, $64 million contract. A couple of re-signings. We're going to re-sign special teams ace Nick Neiman, tender Zane Anderson, and then also re-sign Darian Kennard. So now we are around $61 million in cap. Okay, here is the interesting offseason additions. My first move is I am trading for Anthony Richardson for a late round pick. I feel like it literally screams to me Malik Willis all over again. Putting him, the Packers are going to need a really solid backup quarterback. They usually like backup quarterbacks who are extremely athletic and extremely raw in talent. I think Anthony Richardson would fit perfectly in that system. He wants to go to the place where he can learn the best to come out and be the best. Also have a chance to play, as Jordan Love has had some injuries in the past. I don't know necessarily what pick he would go for. I'd go for maybe like a fifth or lower. I don't think you fetch him for like a 3rd round pick unless you're like a really backup needy team, like possibly the Rams. I think if Anthony Richardson wants to go to a team for a cheap price, bring him to Green Bay. I would try to make that happen. Now for signings. Boy, we got some fun ones. First one, I am signing Christian Kirk, veteran receiver depth, 1 year, $6 million contract. We're going to bring him aboard. Now, there's been some rumors circulating. I am signing Cam Taylor-Britt, corner from Cincinnati.
Okay.
There has been a lot of rumors that they have been in contact with him. They're really interested with him. He's an interesting story. He has been very up and down in productivity, had some issues with Cincinnati last year, as well as some injuries. I think he's a solid corner. I think, physical, aggressive. He's going to be a guy they're going to go after. They're going to need to address the secondary. I know this screams, and even to me, it screams kind of like a Nate Hobbs signing. We don't know how that's going to go yet. It didn't go great the first year, but I do think they're going to spend some money in the secondary rather than going out and drafting guys. Unfortunately, I think Cam Taylor-Britt fits that bill. Another one, I know I mocked this guy to a different team earlier, but I think that it's a little bit better here. I'm going with Nakobe Dean signing with Green Bay. I had him mocked to the Raiders a little while ago. Green Bay's in the market for a new linebacker. I think Quay Walker was just not as polished as they wanted for a middle linebacker. I think they're going to go for a guy who's smart, excellent coverage skills, but is also a physical downhill runner. To me, and they're going to go with someone who's younger. They don't usually go for guys that are older, which kind of leaves out a guy like Bobby Okereke, even though I'd be fine with him. I think a guy like Nakobe Dean, who can play right in the middle, fits that bill extremely well. and can play alongside Edger and Cooper. You're going to bring him on a 4-year, $31 million deal. And those are my free agent signings. Now, I do think a sneaky one, and we just talked about this, funny enough, is Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah.
Green Bay has been in touch with the reps for Brandon Aubrey. I would not be surprised, because of how many kicking woes Green Bay has had, if they go out and spend that $10 million a year to get one of the best kickers in the NFL and cut Brandon McManus. I think it's a little crazy. I really think the Cowboys are just going to try to bring him back, but I would not be surprised if a team like them is desperate enough to go get him. On to the draft. Sidetracked a little bit. We're going trenches in the draft. It's my second round pick. I'm going with Christian Miller, defensive tackle from Georgia. What does Green Bay love more than Jordan Love? It is Georgia defensive players. Christian Miller fits that bill. Super physical, aggressive, great run stuffing defensive tackle. They need depth in that position. They're going to have four. You got Devontae Wyatt, Christian Miller, Warren Brinson, and Nazir Stackhouse. I think Christian Miller fits the bill and what they want on a side-by-side defensive tackle basis with Devontae Wyatt. Bolster that defensive line. And in the third round, I'm considering the fact that you might need to trade up for this guy, but I would go get him in this third round position. That's Jake Slaughter, offensive center from Florida. That was one of the things I didn't really address is center. They desperately are going to need someone to play that center middle of field. I have not seen them draft a center in such a long time. I think it is their time to do it. I don't know if they'll prioritize it in the second round. I could honestly swap the two picks, but I think in the draft, again, they're going trenches. They're going to pick up an interior offensive lineman, a center. I would love this. I think Jake Slaughter's fantastic. I think he's really good value in the third round. I would not be surprised if they have to trade up to go get him, but I would do so. And that is my Green Bay Packers mock off season.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say this, these are probably the hardest teams to mock is our favorites.
Yes.
Because there's so many outside sources that we're trying to bring in. We're trying to be super realistic, still trying to have some hope. Like those are the hardest ones. And I mean, I agree with so many of your choices. Obviously like Christian Kirk while he may not quite fill exactly what Romeo Dobbs is like leaving, by being able to restructure and extend, Christian Watson, hopefully he's able to take that step up. Christian Kirk really stepped up for the Texans last year. He was their best, playoff receiver. He's dealt injuries a little bit throughout this last few years, but him healthy, he's still, to me, I think one of the better strictly slot receivers in the league.
Yeah.
Cam Taylor-Britt, I don't think he will be back for the Bengals this year.
Yeah, I don't think he will either.
I think he is kind of a player to me who might end up kind of resembling that player behind you right there, Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything, but now again, he could be somebody that way outplays his projected contract. So I think you are taking a little bit of a risk there, which I like, and that's what really
that's
brings
a realistic
GMs.
offseason. I'm with you. I would say, hey, good to bring in a guy, but is this the right guy? Because as you just saw with Nate Hobbs, it's not looking the best so far, even though I really like the signing. But that's what you do. That's what free agency is all about, is you take swings and you either hit or miss. I mean, you know it just as much as I do. It's my Martellus Bennett to your Gabe Davis,
I could go on a list of players.
Yeah.
But no, I like it. I love, obviously trenches are the most important thing in football. So just targeting multiple picks there is the way to go. But yeah, so that is the NFC North.
And now we're on to the AFC South, your division. Josh, do you want to start or do you want me to start on this one?
You know what? I'm going to start. I'm going to go with the Jags.
Going big or going home. There we go.
I'm going right there. Very realistic. Same thing with the Packers. I'm doing things people are probably going to absolutely hate, but to me, these are things that I have seen, I've heard, speculated, things of that nature. So the Jags sit at negative $16.3 million.
Woo.
There is no easy restructure. There is no Jared Goff 70 to 30 million.
70 to 30.
So I'm restructuring 4 players: Josh Hines-Allen, Foye Oluokun, Patrick McCarry, and Walker Little. This gives me out of the negative plus a little bit of fun. This is also a year where I'm extending 3 key players. I could extend more. I think these are the players to me that 2 of them outplay their contracts. 1 of them, you're banking a little more potential.
Okay.
Parker Washington, 4-year, $56 million. This is a guy
Wow.
who was.
Whoa, that is
It's a lot of money.
lot of money.
It is a lot
I
of money.
like it though. Yeah.
It's about, what is that, $14 million a year? I mean, if Christian
He
Kirk is getting.
he played very like I'm not saying I'm
No,
surprised. I'm
100%.
surprised with that much money, but I'm not
Mhm.
dissing on him. I think he was
No.
a fantastic piece.
I mean, if Christian Kirk got $17 million from us, 3 years ago, Parker Washington at $14 million is an absolute steal.
Mm.
Or yeah, $14 million.
Yeah, mental math. Yeah.
Mental math real fast. He's also one of the best contested catchers throughout last year, and he's under 6 foot or right at 6 foot. So
Yeah.
I think banking on his potential and what we've already seen from him, I think that's a contract. I also think Brendan Strange had the same thing, 4-year, 47.8, another big contract. But a guy who had 1 year starting with a load of injuries, but already a top 5 blocking tight end, and he had north of 500, 600 yards last year. Credible hands, does not drop the ball much. So banking on those two players. And then I'm going back and forth. I think if you're able to get this player on this type of deal, you take this every time. Trayvon Walker, 4 years, $64 million.
Oh, that's a great deal.
Yeah. If you can get him for under $20 million a year, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year dealt some injuries, was not nearly as productive. The 2 years before that, double-digit sacks, still one of the better run-stopping edge rushers. If you're able to get him for under $20 million, you take that 10 out of 10 times. With that being said, I'm also cutting 4 players. Post June 1st, I'm cutting Eric Armstead. It was a big contract. It's not one that has looked very well. He was rated from PFF 63. That's right at average.
Yeah.
Had a better year than last year at 5.5 sacks, but all 5 of those sacks came in the first 10 games of the season. The back end playoffs, nothing. I'm also cutting Chuma Udoka. Stays about $3 million. He kind of cost us some games in the end. And then a pair of tight ends, Johnny Mutt and Hunter Long. With all of these moves, I go from -16 to $37 million.
Okay, there you go.
A lot of money to play with. I'm re-signing 3 key players. Monteric Brown, another player who, contract year played really well. 3-year, 27.6. Dennis Gardeck, 1 year, 2.5. Tim Patrick, 1 year, $3 million.
Okay.
I want to make a note. I did not say Devin Lloyd or Travis Etienne.
Or Newsome.
Yeah, Newsome. He's not coming back.
No, Josh, no.
He's not coming back. With Devin Lloyd, I do think he outplayed his potential contract here in Jacksonville. With it being contract year, I could see him going for north of $20 million a year, and we don't have the assets for that. With that being said, I could see a situation that happened with Calvin Ridley a few years ago where we offer him a hometown discount and, potentially could take it, but I could see a team, Bengals, Raiders, all these linebacker teams throwing him that big contract. Travis Etienne is another kind of a questionable one. I've seen reports right now that the Jags are more interested in bringing in, a free agent running back, especially Kenneth Walker, drafting somebody, other than bringing Travis Etienne back. So to me, he's, running backs a hit or miss, especially with that, a lot of carries in his career. He's dealt the Liz Frank injury. I am letting him walk.
And then Greg Newsome.
Oh, he's gone.
No, come on.
Greg Newsome is gone.
The Tyson Campbell trade.
Yeah, we're letting Greg Newsome walk, and it was a 1-year deal. I had a feeling they were just trying to get And Tyson Campbell's dead money is still haunting us right now. I have 2 signings. One medium sized, one a little bit smaller. Smaller one is Tutu Atwell, 1 year, 2.6. He's a guy that brings in speed and also special teams as well, especially if we do resign Parker Washington. I know he's our primary punt returner. I don't want a guy that's getting $14 million a year as our number 1 punt returner. He got injured last year in the hip punt returning. He can also both punt return and kick return. If Brace Platoon is our starter, I don't want him returning kickoffs. So Tutu Atwell fits that spot. I'm also signing D-tackle Calais Campbell. Low reunion, 1 year, $10 million. Had the same amount of pass rush production as Eric Armstead with a lot more run stopping ability. A lot cheaper, brings in that veteran presence for, Josh Allen, again, Trayvon Walker, what they need. Picks, they don't have a first round pick, so I went ahead and mocked their round 2 as well as their 3 third round picks. Pick 56, I'm going with my Devin Lloyd replacement, Jake Golday, linebacker, Cincinnati. We've talked about him so much, but he's a guy that is truly like this athletic, he's a low undersized, but athletic freak there in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Pass coverage is amazing. He is kind of, other than a little bit of the size, he is what Devin Lloyd brought last year. think he fits right into our system. Pick 81 with edge rusher Danny Dennis Sutton from Penn State.
Mhm.
He's a guy that's had multiple productive seasons of about 8.5 sacks. He's also fits that same size of both Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, about 6'4", about 260, 270, fits in with our scheme. Pick 88. If he's here, this is fantastic. Mike Washington, running back, Arkansas. This is a guy who, if we don't target running back, I could see us drafting him. What's one thing that this, regime loves? That's fast, productive running backs. Both, Bracial Tuden and the previous, draft class and Mike Washington had very productive college careers, as well as number one 40-yard time in their respective combines.
Yeah.
Both of them. So this fits, to me, this is perfect. Pick 100, I'm going with Will Lee III, corner from Texas A&M. I do believe, and it's been said, that Travis Hunter will be a full-time corner. I do think he still will take some snaps at wide receiver. So in that case, you still have Monteric Brown on one side, Jordan Lewis, Darian Jones, Travis Hunter. I think you bring in another guy. Jordan Lewis is a little bit older. Monteric Brown just re-signed him. Travis Hunter taking offense snaps. Bring in another guy in that secondary. But yeah, this is probably the most realistic one that I've done. They don't have a lot of money. There's no easy contract restructures because we have like 30, it's like almost like 30, 35 million at dead cap because of some awful contracts in the past.
I mean, it's realistic. That's how it is. Sometimes, good teams, they swing and they miss, and that's how it is. But I do like the moves that you made. Calais Campbell would be super fun back in Jacksonville. I almost had him go like in my mock free agency, the Packers, but that's going to be a really underrated signing for whoever gets him because his production and it's unbelievable. His production just has not dipped.
And he is the key to our city.
Exactly. I mean, he would be honored back in Jacks. But yeah, and especially in that draft, I think Mike Washington Jr. would be a gold mine if you find him back in the third round. I think there's a lot of solid kind of back half running backs. There's not a lot of key top guys other than Jeremiah Love, but everyone else, it's relatively quiet. Like some really sneaky good guys in the back half. And I also really like Denny Dennis Sutton. I think he could be a really good rotational edge defender. But yeah, good mock offseason, Josh. I know Jags fans are going to, and I mean, this is how it is with every single fan. I could have gone in my mock offseason and said, I'm signing Devin Lloyd, Alec Pierce, Jamel Dean, Tyler Linderbaum, and said it would have been realistic. It's just not how it works.
Yeah, and you can't. I could sit here and I could restructure every single contract, put 4 years of back in, have 4 like all void years, have Shad Khan sign, $1 billion just for signing bonuses, but that's not realistic.
It's not. But with that being said, I'm gonna move on to the next AFC South team. I have the Houston Texans here. Not in a great spot, minus 13 million in cap space. So we are going to have to do some cap changes. But before we do that, we're going to nail some extensions. First extension I have, we are going to extend Azeez Al-Shaair. Really, really great linebacker for Houston. Kind of the captain, one of the captains of that defense. We're going to put him on a 3 or $40 million deal. I don't know if you just saw recently, but they just added an extension to Danielle Hunter. 1 year, $40 million. All guaranteed.
It's 30 million signing bonus, right?
No, I think it's all, it's something like, it's all guaranteed money. The entire contract is guaranteed. So that might change up a little bit of what I'm doing, but I do think that's a good move. But the other extension, I think this is over Shaair priority. I would like to extend Azeez Al-Shaair. Is extending Will Anderson Jr. Get this man paid. 3 years, $117 million going to Will Anderson. He is the captain of your team, captain of your defense. Like, you need to get him on that payroll again. Now we're going to do some restructures. We got to with the extension, also restructuring Danielle Hunter's contract to save you about $17 million. Nico Collins will save you about $15 million. And Derek Stingley will save you about $17 million. Resignings, not too many resignings. I think they resigned their punter, Tommy Townsend. Also bring back a good rotational defensive lineman in Denico Autry to a 1 year, $2 million deal. I have one cut, and that is Joe Mixon. We're going to cut him after the David Montgomery signing. You're going to save about $8 million in cap with that. So with all that being said, we go from $8 million to $45 million in cap. So a decent amount of spending money. I have a couple of signings, some small ones. But again, this is a thing I want to point out with this team. You want to know who I didn't say for extension? CJ Stroud. I do
Yep.
not think they give him the extension this year. I think they desperately need to wait. It is a very similar thing to the Vikings and JJ McCarthy, because let me tell you, if CJ Stroud does not work out this year, you're going to have to figure something out. So I think this is a window where you have to contend. So these are my contending signings. Small signings, and I'll go to my big signing. We're going to sign Matt Milano to a 1-year, $5 million contract to kind of anchor that linebacker room and replace EJ Speed. We're going to sign Graham Glasgow to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Be your new center for possibly a year, kind of a hit or miss signing for them, but you need offensive line depth, especially after trading away Titus Howard. We're going to sign Daquan Jones to a 1-year, $2 million. You're letting a lot of your defensive tackles walk. You got to bring in a veteran, kind of, again, a piece to kind of be in that rotation in the defensive tackles. And my final signing, and the biggest one that I have, is Isaac Siamalo to a 3-year, $30 million deal. He's cheaper than Ed Ingram by about $10 million. Still a very productive offensive guard, provides veteran leadership on that offensive line. Again, you just need bodies in there. I think he's a perfect Ed Ingram replacement for a little bit cheaper of the cost. Now for my draft. First round pick, I'm going Caden Proctor. I mocked Caden Proctor to them. I just think he just is a Texans offensive lineman, man. Big, big guy, can be your other offensive guard. Yeah, I think and even if Trent Brown and Blake Fisher don't work out, he slides over to tackle if he loses a little bit of weight. My second round pick, because they have an early second round pick. You mocked him earlier. I have Lee Hunter here. I think that Lee Hunter was a borderline late back half first round pick. I don't think the combine helped him at all.
No.
He did not have a good combine, but I still think he's a fantastic defensive tackle, prototypical nose tackle. Again, they desperately need bodies on the defensive tackle scheme of things. I think if you get him kind of early second round, like early kind of mid-range second round, you go and you take him. They have another second round pick now. That I'm going with Connor Lew, center from Auburn. I know I said Glasgow's going. I just think they need bodies on the offensive line. I think Glasgow could be kind of the competition to Connor Lew. Find out which one is better. Or if Glasgow's a little bit better for now, Lew needs some time. You put in Glasgow, Lew waits for a year. And then my final pick in the third round, I'm going to butcher this name. I have Nate Bowen Kirker, tight end from Texas A&M. He is going to be your Dalton Schultz replacement for the future. I think that is something they're going to need to prioritize. I think with a third round pick, getting a backup tight end, but also a guy who could be productive, be a weapon for CJ Stroud, and also a blocker, which he fits the bill, would be a great thing. And that is my mock offseason for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I like it. I think the offensive line is, we talk about trenches every single episode. I don't think we can go 15 minutes without talking about the trenches. But with how you have it set up, you have Alontae Ursay left tackle, Somali left guard, Connor Lew at center,
and Graham Glasgow.
And Graham Glasgow, yep. Right guard, you could see Caden Proctor there. And then right tackle, I don't remember if they re-signed or
They re-signed Trent Brown.
Yep, Trent Brown.
And then they have Blake Fisher there too.
Yep, Blake Fisher for depth. But, I mean, you really just have to see what the progression is like, especially with Alontae Ursay. But that could be a definitely more reliable group. And we talked about the Titus Howard trade. We weren't exactly big fans of it. But if you're able to get Caden Proctor there to play that right guard, I think it's a really good fit. As well as, I don't know what they're going to do with CJ Stroud. I think it's you just have to wait. You don't want to get yourself stuck in a Tua or Kyle Murray type of contract.
No.
So you kind of have to wait and see. You kind of would rather wait a year and overpay him on a contract year rather than give him too much guaranteed money and him, play off, CJ Stroud.
The CJ Stroud downfall is crazy. I mean, it happened so fast, but man, this is, again, I just think you have to prioritize. I think one of the first times I've ever said you have to prioritize extending your defensive lineman over a quarterback. But I think this is for like a priority for Houston to do it.
Well, for sure, man. I don't know what, I don't know what they're going to do I don't know what they're going to do with them. DeMeco Ryans has been, has committed to him, but I don't know if that front office owner officially has. So,
We're gonna
yeah.
see how it goes, man.
Yeah. Um, but with that, I also have the Colts. The Colts sit at -4 million, which they had 100 million last year. So I have them restructuring DeForest Buckner, Charvarius Ward. I have them extending Quentin Nelson, 4-year, 93 million. Yes, Quentin Nelson is already 30, but he could play until he's 40, honestly. Also have them extending Jonathan Taylor, 3-year, 47 million. He was on pace for Offensive Player of the Year, had, MVP looks until the offense kind of
Yeah.
collapsed. I'm trading Anthony Richardson. I agree things can go for a 6th or 5th, 6th, 7th. I'm trading him for the Chiefs. I think
Really?
with Patrick Mahomes'
Wow.
injury right
Well,
now.
yeah. Oh, that's right. That makes sense. Wow. I haven't heard that before.
So the Chiefs need to find some, a reason to stay afloat. I think you bring in a guy who has just as much arm talent and way more athletic ability. And I think that, Andy Reid can get creative there. So I think you set him there, you get a 6 in return. Cutting wise, 2 key starters for me are getting cut. Michael Pittman and Grover Stewart. Grover Stewart are
Mm,
both getting cut. And then I go from -4 million to 81 million with all
damn.
that.
Wow. Okay.
Resignings. I am resigning Quiddy Pay, 3-year, 53.6. Hasn't exactly been, as of a great first round pick, but I think he's fitting in that defensive system. I'm resigning Alec Pierce, 4-year, 81 million. I don't think you can let him just walk. No one ever is having less than 50 catches in 1,000 yards. Doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. The offense adds such a dynamic layer with him there. I'm also resigning Nick Cross, 4-year, 24 million. I am leaving Daniel Jones alone with that transition tag.
Yeah.
I don't know if any teams are going to offer him. I think he's going to end up playing on that, which is 36 million.
Yeah.
I think with that ACL tear, I don't think and with his previous, other than this past season, his first 4 or 5 seasons, the lack of production, I don't think a team is going to bank on him necessarily.
I agree.
So I think any contract he does get will be below that 36 million. So I think he's going to have that 1 year of 36. For signings, I'm signing Mitchell Trubisky, 2-year, 8.8
Ooh.
million. You need to get a quarterback. And not that I don't believe in Riley Leonard. He showed a lot in that last game. Do you think you need to bring in some sort of competition? I don't think Phil Rivers is going to be, out of retirement for the
You don't
second
think he's
time.
gonna come back again, sign an extension?
No, I don't think so. Maybe he's a head coach.
Yeah, maybe.
But then you bring in Mitchell Trubisky, obviously, former second overall pick. He had a fantastic game last year where he played the final game of the season. So bringing some competition. I'm also having them signing Leonard Floyd, 1 year, 9 million, more D-line depth. They're letting a few guys go. And Rashad White, 2 years, 6 million. Bring in a true, third down back for Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor had almost 400 carries last year.
Yeah.
Something insane. So bringing a guy that is a pass catcher specialist takes some that load off of Jonathan Taylor. For their picks, pick 40, they'll have a first round pick, obviously from the Sauce Garden trade. Pick 47, I'm going with Anthony Hill from Texas, linebacker. He is, he's a guy that's kind of all over the field for Texas. He both
Yeah.
rushes the passer. He's in the pass coverage. He's kind of a little bit everywhere. I mean, Pratt was, a starting linebacker for them last year, was not necessarily great. I think they let him walk. Anthony Hill is an automatic upgrade. Pick 78, I'm going with Malachi Fields, wide receiver from Notre Dame. He kind of has that mold of Michael Pittman. He's a little bit of a bigger receiver, about 6'4". Not the greatest combine, but I think that kind of helps you by him
Yeah.
being here in the 3rd round. Pick 113, I'm going with D tackle Tim Keenan from Alabama. We've talked about him in the past.
Yep.
This is your Grover Stewart replacement. Incredible against the run, just a big mountain of a man. But yeah, I think, just kind of to fill in some of your spots, sign some of your guys. I don't know what's going to happen with the Colts this year. It's very interesting if Riley Leonard stays the starter, if they grab a quarterback at the draft, free agency, if they're going to sink, or if Daniel Jones was just a product of, scheme fit. It's definitely a talking point, but that is my Colts offseason.
Yeah, I like the Anthony Hill pick because I have heard that Zaire Franklin is possibly
Could
in trade
potentially be
talks.
traded. Yep.
And yeah, the big question is quarterback, because you're basically with the Sauce Gardner trade, you're saying, listen, we're gonna try and compete for a Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden everything falls apart, and you're like, what the heck is going on? I really like those draft replacements and kind of
Mhm.
how you structure those. Tim Keenan's a guy I would really like. Malachi Fields, I think with him and Alec Pierce, dude, that is a big receiving duo, which
Yeah,
would be a lot of fun. And you mix Josh Downs in there
and Tyler Warren.
and Tyler Warren. That is a big, scary. They like to play big though.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Trubisky is definitely a fun signing for them. But I like your mock off season for them.
Yeah, it doesn't help that, your quarterback goes down and you have a former top 3 pick, and he wants to be traded in quarterback. So, yeah, that's another big thing to you know, keep in touch with, kind of see what ends up happening with, AR-15.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my Colts offseason.
Awesome, man. And we are going to the final one, the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh,
Oh boy, did I have fun with this one.
I'm
This
sure
might be
you
one
did.
of my most fun offseason mocks I've ever done. Titans cap 89.3 million. But we're going to make this bigger. We're going to make a couple cuts. Going to cut Calvin Ridley, save 13 million, cut L'Jarius Sneed, save about 11 million. Restructuring Dan Moore Jr.'s contract, save us 15 million. We're going to make 2 extensions.
Okay.
One is to Jeffrey Simmons. It's a priority. 3 years, $98 million.
Holy
Save
cow.
about 17 million from him. The other one I think is the absolute priority, extending Peter Skoronski, 3 years, 60 million. Save about 2 million with that. Now, re-signings. We're going to re-sign Sebastian Joseph Day. It's a really rock solid defensive tackle option for them. Good veteran leadership, 1 year, 7 million. We're going to re-sign Johnny Hecker. We're going to re-sign their long snapper Morgan Cox. Shout out to the long snappers. We're going to re-sign
We had
Levin.
2 long snapper
Yeah.
resigns this
Hey, that's what
episode.
mock offseasons are all about. Long snapper re-signings. We need to re-sign 1 or 2 offensive linemen. We're going to re-sign Corey Levin to a 1 year, $2 million deal as a depth piece. We're also going to re-sign Jalen Amore Davis to a 1 year, $2 million piece. Now, this is $141 million in cap space.
Oh my gosh.
We have a lot of signings to go through. I'm going to start with some of the smaller ones I have. We're going to sign Jahan Dotson to a 1 year, $2 million deal. Provides relative veteran, leadership in the receiving core. Could be a fun guy to kind of use around with some of those young bucks. Kind of is your smaller, faster receiver. We're going to sign Danny Pinter, offensive lineman from the Colts, to a 1 year, $2 million deal. I'm hesitant that the Titans are going to do another Lloyd Clarkson-Berry massive center signing. I think
Yeah,
Pinter's
Dan Moore.
I think Pinter is a relatively low risk, high reward signing, and he could be a really productive center in the future. I think you bank on that. Jeez, I'm getting lost in it. Next one, I have him signing David Njoku to a 2 year, $20 million deal. I think Njoku, especially after what happened with the Browns, he wants to become the top tight end option, one of the top receiving options. Tennessee is the perfect place to do that for Njoku. Getting a tight end body in there alongside Gunnar Helm after the Chigo Conquo walk, I think he would be a perfect weapon for Cam Ward. We got a couple of Dable guys. We're going to sign Cordell Flott, cornerback from the New York Giants, to a 4 year, $40 million deal. He's not 100% a corner 1. He's probably a corner 2, but again, a really rock solid corner 2. Had a great season last season, provides some immediate corner depth. I just don't think there's a lot of cornerback 1s out in free agency. I think he'd be a great corner signing for the Tennessee.
He's great in the slot as a nickel back for sure.
Yeah. Another one I have is Dylan Parham from the Raiders, 3 year, $30 million. Tennessee loves, big guards, but also very fast athletic guards. Bronski fits that bill. Parham is exactly that kind of guy. He's a big guy, but he moves extremely well. Instantly becomes your new offensive guard in replacement of Kevin Zeitler. Bringing him aboard. Here are the 2 big signings. I haven't even gotten to the big ones. John Franklin Myers. I had him mocked to Cincinnati, but the steam is picking up. He goes to Tennessee. I would love this. He can play outside. He can also play defensive tackle alongside Jeffrey Simmons. He's just a great gadget piece all over the place. Expected contract value for him, it's going to be, I know I said 3 years, $45 million. It's up to 3 years, $60 million for him.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised they pull the trigger on this guy. I know they've had a lot of interest, even though Jermaine Johnson has reached out to him regarding coming to Tennessee. And my final signing, and the biggest signing of them all for them, is Wan'Dale Robinson coming to New York, coming back to Brian Daboll. Was super productive in his last season under Brian Daboll. 4 years, $84 million contract, becomes basically your weapon X for Cam Ward. I know we brought in Dotson as kind of a rotational guy. Wandale's just your perfect slot guy alongside those big guys as Io Manor and DK. He is your man. Wow, that was a lot of offseason moves. Now, okay, here's my mock. And before, I didn't want to spoil it at first because I didn't mention this, but with my first pick, with the 4th overall pick, we, Tennessee Titans, are cutting Tony Pollard and drafting Jeremiah Love. I
Okay.
think the Jeremiah Love train to Tennessee has been taking up a lot of steam. Tony Pollard has been rock solid, but he is, I think, 29 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee has come out and said they want to draft the most athletic guy on the field. This offense needs skill position guys, needs impact players. I think Jeremiah Love is that kind of guy alongside Cam Ward to just completely reshape that offense. He is an unbelievable running back. His steam has picked up so much, an unbelievable combine. His highlights are just absolutely fantastic. Tennessee, I think, pulls the trigger on a generational running back prospect. Edge, obviously, you're saying, well, what about edge rusher? I think that they have a lot of faith in the guy they drafted last year that people forget about, Femi Oladeji. Him alongside Jermaine Johnson, I think, is their new edge rush duo. Femi didn't have a lot of play, but when he played, he was actually pretty good.
Yeah, dealt with a big time injury.
Dealt with a big time injury, but I think they're going to have a lot of faith in him coming in and being that edge. I just think Jeremiah Love is the pick here, man. I think it's a surprise, but I think it is a really, really fun pick for Tennessee. That would be so much fun. My second pick in the second round, I'm adding to the corner room. I'm selecting Keith Abney from Arizona State. I feel like I've had him mocked a couple of times to some different teams, but I think in the present day, I think this just fits the bill for Tennessee. I could see that. I just think they go with the best corner available at this position. I have a feeling Colton Hood is going to be selected earlier. If not, he would be my pick here. I think Keith Abney is the next best bet, would be perfect under Robert Saleh in that defense. Speaking of defense, we have another defensive pick in the third round. I'm going with linebacker Josiah Trotter out of Missouri.
Okay.
Cedric Gray played really well, but outside of that, they are really lacking depth in the linebacker room. Cody Barton is not looking like the best free agent signing in the world. I think Josiah Trotter can kind of be that replacement, play alongside Cedric Gray, and fit a formidable linebacker duo. Wow, what an offseason for the Tennessee Titans.
Oh yeah. First of all, I love it. Where do I start? I really like the Wan'Dale Robinson and David Njoku fits because what's the best things you can do with Cam Ward is bring him into a system and an offense that he succeeded in the past. And you look at his last year in Miami, Xavier Restrepo and Elijah Araro, both were his top 2 targets, and both of them like scheme wise and body and production fit exactly what David Njoku and Wan'Dale Robinson are. So I love those 2 picks. Obviously, bulking up the offensive line is very important. The John Franklin Myers, I love that pick. Robert Saleh has had fantastic tandems of D tackles throughout his coaching career. You look at for the Jets, for example, Quentin Williams, you had a bunch of other guys down there, Sheldon Rankins. You go with the 49ers, obviously, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner a little bit, Javon Kinlaw, a bunch of players. But no, I really like that. I do think this is the cause of, that Jermaine Johnson trade, where edge doesn't have to be that first pick in that first round. So you bring in, you bring in a running back and kind of just fits in that, that history of, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry, Eddie George, all of these legendary running backs. And I know Jeremiah Love just visited with the Titans, was it yesterday, the day before? So this is heating up. I could see that as a real possibility.
I just think it's this was the thing with Tennessee. Their offense was just a flat line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tony Pollard, I respect him. I think he's a very good running back. He's had a lot of 1,000-yard seasons. I just think they need to get younger in that position and a little more dynamic. And I just think there's not a lot of guys in that position you can get that's like Jeremiah Love. It's like Ashton Genty. It's like, but I think again, it's not just you have to take Ashton, you have to bulk up that offensive line. I think that's what I learned from the Raiders is because yeah, you draft
Hmm.
Genty, but you don't have an offensive line for him to go with. I think they just got to spend, man. They got to spend, and with free agency, it's usually the biggest spenders sometimes aren't the biggest winners, but you got to go all in. I think this is their time right now. It's just
And I
so
agree.
much fun. Oh my
I
god.
agree with that last point. I think if you're a Titans fan and you look at this team, you look at the potential and the salary cap, you're asking yourselves, why not us? Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty with the Colts, especially the quarterback play. A quarterback play of the Texans. And yes, I'm a Jags fan, but at the same time, like from an outside perspective, you're looking, is it sustainable? This Jags team played so much harder than expectations. Is that sustainable? Like success, like future success there. And if you're a Titans fan, you have this money, you have, a high potential quarterback. Why not go out and spend it all? Why not go out and try to win the division? This is your time. So I love that, that mindset and how you were able to portray that with your picks and, you know, contracts, all that good stuff.
Well, thank you, man. Oh my god, that was the sweetest thing I've ever heard. What a way to end mock off seasons with a
Whew.
bang. Wow, that was a long episode, man, but we had a lot to talk about. But hey, next time I'll be seeing you, probably free agency is going to start. So we're going to see
Yeah.
which one of our things has really paid off. And
Mm-hmm.
if we just completely screwed this whole thing up, this could be our next kind of competition is seeing who got it right. Who got it right
That could be
more.
interesting.
That could be fun. But
Starting
Josh,
starting Monday the 9th, legal tampering starts. So next
yes,
episode, we're going to talk through some of those signings, maybe throw some grades out there,
we'll probably
have some
be
sort of
talking while about people are signing. You're going to have a
yeah, we
lot of
might have,
things going on.
breaking news as it's happening.
But Josh, thank you so much. That concludes the end of our saga of mock off seasons.
Oof.
We are officially opening the gates to the off season. Josh, this was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
James, right back at you. We have tons of great things to come. And as we say every episode, thank you guys for all your support on all of our platforms. We are, just a growing group here. So, big things to come in the future. And we'll
Absolutely,
keep you
man.
guys, updated to all of our stuff.
For sure, man. Josh said it perfectly. Well, you, my friend, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in free agency.
And James, I will see you in free agency in just a little bit. All right.
Sounds good, bud.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, see you, man.